Good morning. Welcome to Reading the Science of Mind in 1 Year. I'm Reverend Rafe Ellis, Senior Minister and Spiritual Leader of the Center for Spiritual Living Common Ground in Central Maryland. Today is March 12th. And so, what happens is we do the reading of the daily reading and then share perspectives on what comes alive in us today while it's being read. Really unrehearsed and just letting Spirit speak as us. I invite you to share in the chat what comes alive in you as you read the reading with us or as you listen to it being read, and any questions that you have. Feel free to pop those in the chat with whatever function you're using. So let's get after it. Here we go.
For March 12th, Science of Mind, A Philosophy, a Faith, a Way of Life by Ernest Holmes. Reading from page 565, paragraph 4, through page 567, paragraph 1, using inclusive language. The eternal cycles of life in motion fulfill my faith. This is another way of saying that something happens when we believe. Faith is operated upon by some principle which is a government of law and order, and which has within itself the power to execute itself. Prayer is not to ask the one to be the one. There is a supreme intelligence in the universe. We cannot tell it anything. What little we know, we have drawn from it. There is an absolute spirit around us. It does not need our existence. It has already surrendered itself to us, but we have not yet surrendered ourselves to it. That is what prayer or treatment is for. We do not pray the principle of peace to desist from confusion, but we seek that peace that it shall enter into our confused souls. Therefore, prayer or meditation is for the purpose of becoming receptive to the divine influx, which already owns everything, knows everything, governs all things, and creates what we need, if we but permit it to, in its own nature, which is goodness, truth, and beauty. Each turns to the within in something after this fashion. We let go of everything, drop every fear from our minds, drop all confusion from our thought, and enter into the inner secret communion with that great reality, which is our universal self source, in whom we live and move and have our being. We are conscious that this divine presence overshadows and indwells. It is both without this physical mental being and within this physical mental being. Therefore, it is the spiritual reality of this being, the I am, which is universal, eternal, and perfect. Now this spirit is our spirit. It is our life from which we now draw full, complete, and perfect being. This divine intelligence does govern us intellectually. It does direct us consciously, accurately, unerringly. We surrender to it every fear, every sense of uncertainty of the future, every thought of any morbidity of the past. We surrender all confusion and doubt, and we know that this divine influx removes every mental obstruction to peace. It removes every sense of condemnation and judgment, and we enter into the fulfillment of its perfection now. We believe if there is any part of our physical being which needs healing, it heals it. That power within us and around us, which creates, can recreate, can make whole now. We believe if there is any conflict in our mental being, it can be removed because the spirit is higher than the mind and more than the body. And we are dealing with that spirit which, animating the mind with divine intelligence, produces an influx of spiritual life in the body, healing without effort both mind and body. We relinquish, we let go those things which bother us mentally or hurt us physically. We know that the divine presence is the eternal healer because it is the everlasting giver of life. And we know the intelligence which created the universe and projected it into form and governs it with perfect law, that divine being directs our movements intelligently, coherently, constructively, certainly, bringing to each that which we call success and prosperity, happiness, fulfillment of life, action. And we know that that divine being, governing everything out of its own nature, works without effort, birthless and deathless and tireless. It moves through us to perfect ends now. The eternal cycles of life in motion fulfill my faith.
Thank you for reminding me I was muted. Thank you. So there's a lot in this. And what I was saying was what's really important is to remember that it takes a lot of words to try to describe something that essentially is very simple. And to recognize that we're all on a spiritual journey and we're all grappling with these ideas and these concepts in our own way. And it's meant to be that way, right? That is deserving of celebration. The fact that you even have an awareness that you're on a spiritual journey. Yay, you. Right? Not everybody's doing that. Um, our faith, the substance of things not seen. That's part of what this reading is talking about. The substance, the one substance out of which everything is made. Now we can think about that scientifically and simply call it energy. We can relate to it as spirit. We can call it God. We can call it a lot of things. And I encourage you to recognize that naming it is just so you have some way to talk about it, but not to limit it. And that's where we get in trouble. And that's what it's talking about, that it can only do through us what we allow. It is our thought, it is our belief about it that controls how much we can use it. Because we can't receive beyond our belief. Right? The creation process, the activity of creation, is very simple. Thoughts acted on by a mechanical, impersonal action of law. We call it law simply because it acts the same every time for everyone. It's not separate from this infinite energy and beingness. It's simply the acting aspect of it. And so the form is the form of it. There's no separation. And so you, beloved, are a form of this one. That's what it's talking about when it says it's without us, outside of us, right? Again, it's the language of the time. This is written This particular version is copyrighted in 1938. The original was 1926, and it shares some of the same language. So it's not modern language, right? In modern terms, they're simply saying that it's outside of us and inside of us, reminding us that that's all there is. That we can't be separate from it because there's nowhere to go. Right? There's just substance. Oh. And so we're using it with every thought. Now that can be scary, and it can also be liberating, right? Because it's like so simple. We call ourselves, a new thought theology, a new thought movement. Just have a new thought. And I know that sounds oversimplified, and that's how we do it. Have a new thought. And if something jumps up in the back of your brain that argues with that new thought, then you get to understand, okay, this is what's arguing. And it talks about letting go of all of that stuff. The way we let go of it is to first interrupt it and then tell the truth. Say another statement that's actually true. We can't get rid of the old thought, but we can plant a new one, right? It's like a beaker of acid. You can't take out the acid, but you add base and it changes the chemical makeup. So we have a thought that isn't working. Just let it go and create a new thought. Have a new thought and focus your attention on that new thought. That's what affirmations are. Keep affirming the new thought. Neuroplasticity teaches us that repetition will actually create new synapse connections in our physical brain that create new neural pathways so that new thought becomes the believed habit, the believed pattern that manifests in our life. Okay? So, spirituality, religion, and science coming together because that's all there is. You are using it, and now you're a little more empowered to use it intentionally. So let's take this into our meditation. And I invite you to just be present with whatever comes. This is a beautiful time to just listen to that inner voice and know that what you're hearing is coming from within you. The divine self, the substance of your being, coming together with the human expression of itself to bring us into alignment with who we've always been. Here we go. with this breath, I move into a greater awareness, a greater recognition of one power, everywhere present, that is the very substance, activity, and form that I know as creation. This one nameless, changeless everything. Nameless because it cannot be limited by a single idea. Changeless because there is nothing for it to change into. It already is infinite possibility, expressing in the multiplicity, the diversity that is creation. I know it to be life, living, eternally giving of itself to itself as itself. Breath that is breathing all of life. Intelligence that is being used in every form of itself, at whatever level is appropriate for that form. That its very image is infinite possibility. And being in form, I know that I am that in form. That all of it is right here, and yet right here is never all of it. That what is true of me is true of every one and everything in this physical realm. This infinite beingness, this infinite substance, expanding its experience of itself through expression. So I claim and affirm that there is an awakening within humanity that recognizes everything that we experience in this physical realm is the infinite expressing. That we begin to have actual relationship of one, of wholeness with all that is. That moves us to caring for our atmosphere, for our planet, for every living inhabitant of our planet. That we celebrate differences as individualized expressions of this one infinite being. And as we do, the very idea of separation fades into the nothingness that it is. That as we celebrate the unique divine expressions of the infinite as purposeful, as we relate with curiosity and awe and wonder, we begin to see and experience with awe and wonder a greater wholeness that is the divine self expressing within each individualized self. And as we become curious and as we connect, peace is the natural byproduct of that connection. As humanity awakens to the reality that we are each other, that what is done to one is done to the whole, that we purposely, intentionally love beyond the adjective, that love as the nature of our being is expressed every thought, in every belief, in every movement of consciousness, in every behavior. That there is a natural equality that recognizes the common value of every expression of one substance. And I am grateful. I am grateful for this threefold creation process where ideas are the infinite's desire to express, acted upon by that action within themselves that simply receives the impress of thought, acts upon it, works lawfully, the same for everyone, every time, no interruption, and instantly makes it so. So I know it's already done. And knowing it is complete, I can let go of any errant, no longer useful, out of alignment thought, whether it's fear or apprehension or simply arguing for my limitations out of habit. I let all that go and step fully into this day with my eyes and my ears and my heart wide open to experience what has already been manifested in the healing of life, in the alignment of thought. I surrender and experience. Ashe. Shalom. Aho. Amin. Amen. And so it is. Namaste. Thank you.